weeks ago, we were down in the deep south at Barber Motorsports Park, where passing was difficult, but the racing was intense. This week, we're going to travel north across the border of the famous Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, more simply known as Mosport. It'll be a 75-minute grind to the green to the checker, and you won't want to miss a second of it. Good evening and welcome to round 3 of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. Alongside Greg Ginsburg, I'm Larry McLeod, and tonight we're going to have Dennis and Alex working the production booth to bring you all the action. And Greg, this legendary track, one of the greatest in North America, seems to be a perfect fit for tonight's GT4 and TCR mixed class battles.
You're right, Larry. Mosport, the second oldest purpose-built racetrack north of the border in Canada, out in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, is known for one thing. It's known for speed. And it is going to be a great match for our drivers, both in the TCR class as well as the GT4 class. 2.45 miles. That's for you guys, you Canadian folks, that is 3.95 kilometers and 10 turns that really will challenge these drivers. And, you know, the one thing about Mosport, Larry, is it's really, because of the speed, a little bit difficult to pass on. There are only really two very slow corners here, and they're both put together, known sometimes as the hairpin, otherwise known as Moss Corner. Interesting story about Moss Corner. When this track was built, the very first winner at Mosport was Sterling Moss. 60 years ago today. Actually, the very first race at the track was in June of 1961, and he did not think that hairpin was quite tough enough, and so they turned it into essentially a two-corner complex, turns 5A and 5B here, to make things much more difficult. And it is definitely very challenging, and the key to seeing passing here at Mosport or Canadian Tire Motorsports Park is to see who can get that complex, that two-turn complex, turns 5A and 5B correct.
Oh, and it's legendary. You get into this, and those of us that have been on the sim, it becomes one of those tracks that is a must-have. So really looking forward to seeing the action here on this track. And I'll tell you what, why don't we go ahead and let's take a look at the points from our series. We've got both TCR and the GT4s that are going to be competing here. Let's run through the points as they stand, and it is a tight one at the top between the teammates. Elvis Rankin right now leading the points with just a 2-point lead at 73 to 71 over his teammate Mike Dam. In third, Tony Kernan, followed in fourth by Kevin Ford, Randall McGrew, Chris Thorman, Jeff Jacobs, Robert Hartley, Bobby Childs, Steve Daniel rounding out the top 10 there in your GT4 point standings. Over in the TCR category, right now you can see only 6 have earned points, but that's hopefully going to change tonight. But looking at the points here, it is a tie at the top. Eric Violette and Brandon Whitworth tied at 73 points. Andrew List, Chris Zabo, John Allen, and Scott Brooks rounding out that. But tonight, hey, Greg, we've got quite a few more entries joining us for the TCR ranks tonight, don't we?
We do. We have we had 14 entered, but I believe we're going to be at about 8, so almost doubling the size of the field from what we had in week 1. Of course, this will be the third week for this particular series. But Larry, why don't we jump over? I was just talking about the challenges that are the hairpin or Moss Corner here at Mosport. Why don't we take a drive around this 2.45 mile 10-turn course and let our viewers know all about it.
Welcome, everyone, to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, located here in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada. Great to have you with us as we provide you your track guide today around this 2.5-mile road course. Canadian Tire was originally named Mosport and was built in the late 1950s, with its first major event being held in August of 1961, with Sterling Moss getting the win in his Lotus 19, hence the name of turns 5A and B, Moss Corner. Well, let's begin our track guide around this beautiful road course. As we head up the front straightaway here, you'll notice our flag stand to the left as we cross the finish line and head down into this very fast right-hand corner here of turn 1. Hitting this exit right can be a little tricky. You're going to track right out to the edge of the course here, get up into 5th gear, and get ready for this downhill treacherous corner of turn 2. So easy to find yourself out there in the grass fighting that tire barrier out there. Here we go, down into turn 3 here. This is another fast, sweeping right-hand corner. Let the car drift out, get right back to throttle, come right out to the outer edge to get as much momentum as you can down this little short straight into fifth gear once again, and down into the left-hander and up into Moss Corner, turns 5A and B. Bit of a treacherous corner there. You can see it's very difficult to get that aim just right to get a good run out of Moss and up onto Mario Andretti straightaway. Heading up the backstretch here, big overtaking opportunities here. Probably the most overtaking that goes on here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park is right here at the end of this straightaway. Now heading down into turn 8, get down on the brakes, let that car roll down into this big carousel sweeping right-hander. This will bring us into the quick left-hander here that takes us to the final corner, White's Corner, here at Canadian Tire. Back to the right, then right up off the exit of the corner, and then down to the start-finish line once again. There's your track guide for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Thanks so much for being with us.
And there you go. That is the 10-turn Mosport Canadian Tire Motorsports Park course. Great speed, Larry. And really, besides the speed, the flow here, you're constantly moving from left to right, but you've got all these cambered turns that, you know, it's one of those tracks that you may not be able to pass, but you can certainly get into a great rhythm here, you know. But a lot of the drivers that I've spoken to over the years that have driven, not in the virtual world, but in the real world here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, they also tell me that it's one of the most harrowing tracks that they have ever been on, primarily because of the high speeds, like turn number 1, dropping down that hill, and you know, and just having to stay on the throttle and seeing those walls right up, you know, just mere feet off the side of the track.
Oh, absolutely. That turn 2 left-hander that's all off camber, kind of a double apex driven. That's just insane. And then you think about turn 4 when it's just, you know, a crazy, daring you to just stay foot to the floor all the way plummeting down the hill towards the Moss hairpin. I can absolutely see it would be a harrowing adventure and just frightening at times, and just putting, you know, those who have the test of that, I guess the test who has the feet to just put it all behind them and just focus in on the next mark and the next corner and not think about those other things in the real world. That's hard to do. But that's the great thing about the virtual world. You don't have to think about those things. You just have to hit the marks, and if you lose it, well, you just go to the pits, get a fresh car, and do it all over again.
Yeah, exactly, Larry. That's exactly how you go about it. And you know, the one thing that you know, as we have qualifying now getting underway here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, is, you know, as you said, you have to go and you know, try to get into that rhythm, try to put those fears behind you, and really focus on the bigger picture here as we watch our drivers now making the through qualifying here. Again, these are 15-minute qualifying sessions.
Yeah, good shot there, Mike Dan, the local Canadian, in fact. Points right up there in the points. He and teammate Elvis Regas Mike's got a bit of an off there at the famous Moss hairpin. So that's going to be, that's one of those treacherous spots. You get a little bit deep there, and you catch a little bit of that dirt on the outside. So this lap will not be any good for him. He'll have to get it done on one of his future laps. But that just shows you how difficult that corner is. It's blind coming in. Yeah, it's a very, very blind corner as you approach coming out of turn 4 down the little short chute. It bottoms out at this bottom of this hill, and at some point you've got to hit the brakes as it sort of climbs and crests. So very, very difficult there. Even someone as good as Mike Dam, who's probably had a ton of practice here, showing you how difficult that is there. Got a good shot here of John Allen now in our TCRs in that stealth black scheme that we've seen, started to become accustomed to with him here in the TCR trim. John out there, going to be a pretty big field, as we mentioned a little bit ago. The TCR group starting to grow as we've now got a total number of entries registered for the series up to about 14. I think we're going to see about 8 or 9 of them running here tonight, so it's good to see those numbers coming up. They'll be battling a real great battle here tonight at this track. It's great for TCRs. It'll be very, very close. They do draft a little bit. You see a little bobble there for John coming around that hairpin there at the Moss hairpin. It's just so difficult to get the car to rotate just right and get on the gas to come off the exit. And then down this long, bending Andretti straight, all uphill. So it shows you how critical it is to get an exit off of the Moss hairpin. But the TCR field, you know, we've seen the folks who are at the front of the field there with Whitworth and List, and those guys and Eric Violette, they're going to be fast tonight in the D2D. But when you see someone like John Allen coming into the mix, we've seen him in the Miatas and the sprints. He'll be getting in that mix as well. So we've got quite a big field now coming in with the TCRs.
All right, and we're on board right now with the number 1 car. That is the Travis Schwenke right now, who's just put his car on pole with a 1:23.577. That is about 1/10 up on Elvis Rankin, and now Hartley moving up into 3rd in the GT4 class. And big. I don't want to say big change, Larry, but last season here in the sports car series, the majority of the GT4 cars, actually all the GT4 cars, I believe, were running the BMW M4 GT4 cars, and we do have this year a number of the Porsche Caymans as well. So it gives us a little bit more variety, and we'll have to see here at Mosport, which is the better horse for the course, whether it's straight line speed and which cars can give it to you, or whether it's torque off the corners. Now, again, as we've been talking about what Mosport gives, and that is lots and lots of high-speed corners. I have my feelings as far as what it may be, but we'll have to see as this goes on.
Yeah, and that was something that we talked to. I know you're joining us kind of mid-season here, but Austin and I talked about that early on in the first race or so, when the Orion team kind of switched from the Porsche over to the BMW, having made the decision that the BMW seemed to be a bit of an easier car for them to drive, and that sort of led to their decision. And we had talked to Elvis Rankin, for example, that they had done, the speed was very comparable between them, but just felt like the Porsche was a bit more of a challenge to get that last bit of speed out of consistently every lap. So perhaps there may be more speed out of it in that ultimate sharp end, but being able to do it consistently perhaps might be the reason why they're sticking with the BMW here.
All right, and so as we're watching now, and let's see, who do we have? We've got Eduardo Lorente on track, making his way through. And Lorente, as he across the stripe with a 1:26 and change, he is currently sitting 4th. Well, actually, no. Lorente is in the TCRs, pardon me. Looking at looks like Jordy Fike in the 09 car as he makes his way around. Fike currently sitting 10th in GT4.
Yep, at the top of the leaders, you can see there, Rankin just half a tenth there ahead of teammate Mike Dam. Those guys never separated by much. We saw them battle it out of Arbor Motorsport Park 3 weeks ago, right up until the end when Mike Dam was able to take that victory. We'll see if Elvis can come back and challenge him here and how close they are. I really do think that qualifying is critical here. My opinion to this track, as much fun as it is and as harrowing as it can be for real-world drivers, I think this place is one of the most difficult tracks to pass, partly because it is just a lot of high speed with just that one extremely difficult Moss hairpin. But my experience has been it's tough to pass here.
Yeah, it is, and and I think as we watch this go on, and again as we are running here through qualifying and have just about 5.5 minutes left to go in qualifying. Again, drivers can put in 4 laps, and their best lap will set their position on the grid for the start of the race here. I would suspect, for example, as we watch here with Eric Violette in the number 89 TCR Audi, as he makes his way across the start-finish line, that when we start to see all of these TCR cars out here on track, most likely what we're going to see is a big processional with cars all in a line, nose to tail. They'll split out as they come down the end of the Andretti straightaway, they come out of the hairpin, and then what is the longest straightaway here at Mosport, bringing down towards turn 8, and then they're going to realize that they've got this right-hand corner, and they can't make a pass because they've brought the car out into the air there. So, we'll have to see how this plays out. But I think, especially when you look at the TCR cars, where these cars are all very, very closely matched, with no one car having, say, a power advantage or an aero advantage over the other, it's going to be difficult to make passes here.
Yeah, my experience here watching a lot of races is what you find the pass ends up being a combination corner type pass. You've got to be on someone's tail coming out of Moss hairpin, get alongside them, coming up towards the S's, and if you have to make it stick on the outside of 8, coming to the S's, so you have a chance to be on the inside at 9, and maybe make the pass going into 10. Otherwise, the only other shot you would have is to be on the outside at 1 to give you a chance to be on the inside of 2. Yeah, or somehow be close enough on the outside of 2, which is harrowing on that off-camera corner, to have a shot to be on the inside of 3. It's one of those combination type of deals. It's not a single draft straightaway outbreak make. This is not Road America. You're not going to see those kind of passes here in Mosport.
Yeah, exactly, Larry. And it all comes down to what we were talking about before, and I think you used the right word. It's harrowing. In order to affect the pass here, you have to do something that the car isn't necessarily going to like. And frankly, something that maybe your competitor won't expect you to do. Because a lot of the passing opportunities that you have here really take it takes more than a driver's tendencies or a perceived weakness. It really takes aggression more than anything else here in order to make a pass work.
It really does. Aggression and skill. So if you can make the car stick on the, as we're watching here, as Eric Violet here is going in grading car here going through turn 8. It's so difficult to make the car stick on the outside of 8, but if you're able to do it, it gives you this inside here through 9. And that's one of the opportunities to pass. Otherwise, it's a train, and then it comes down to undercuts and overcuts for pit stops, or maybe using traffic to your advantage. With an 11-car field, it looks like we've got 11 cars now qualified here for TCR. That's going to make the field mix up a little bit, and maybe able to use them sort of like it's going to use a ball sports analogy, a little bit of like a pick in basketball or something to be able to get around somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk about pit stops here as we go on. Of course, in this 75-minute race, we're going to have, and because of the way these cars are required to run at the start of the race, we are going to have pit stops from everybody, and that will be certainly part of the strategy and how things play in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that strategy as the race goes on, because frankly, it's going to be a little bit different for our GT4 cars than it is for the TCR cars, and but definitely something to watch here as this race transpires.
Yep, great shot there of Elvis Rankin taking his time, a couple extra laps here. He has finished his 4 qualifying official laps, so this is just sort of bonus time, overtime for him, I guess. As you can see the time on the board there, just a 10th.5 slower than Mike Dam. So it looks like Mike Dam is provisionally on pole here at I'm going to call his home track, because he's Canadian, so I'm going to say this is his home track, whether it really is, if he's even near the actual facilities. He could be in British Columbia for all I know, but he is Canadian. He flies the flag for Canada, so it's effectively his track, and holding serve here at his home course this tonight.
All right.
But it's tight. It's very tight. You look at the top of the list there. The top 10 are within 1 second. And then you look down at the TCRs, and the entire field, it seems, is within about 1 second there. So it's going to be extremely tight in both classes. And even from one class to the other, it's only about a 2 or 3 second difference between the top TCRs and the top of the GT4s, which means we're not going to see a huge, the front of the one field catching the back of the other field anytime soon, even though it's a 75-minute race. This isn't going to be like 10 laps in. We're going to see overlap racing. This isn't exactly like Daytona with 3 classes. All right, so that will bring us to the start of our race. Let's go through the grid for the GT4s. On pole, as I mentioned, it's Mike Dam, the local Canadian from Orion Racing, with that 123. You like numbers, you got to like that one if you're Mike Dam. On outside of row 1, it's going to be Elvis Rankin, his teammate, just a 10th.5 back. Row 2 is going to be made up with Robert Hartley on the inside and Travis Schwenke on the outside. It's an all Orion front 2 rows. On the following row, we've got Kevin Ford on the inside, Mazyar Azmi on the outside. On the fourth row, it's going to be Tony Kernan, followed by David Payton. Making up the fifth row, it's going to be Chris Thorman on the inside and Russ Ruddick on the outside. On the sixth row, Randall McGrew and Jordy Fike. Making up the seventh row, we've got Raymond Bader out of Everest Quality Racing. All right, moving on to our TCRs. On the pole in the TCRs, D2D Racing has got a front row lockout. It's Andrew List on pole. On the outside, his teammate from D2D, Brandon Whitworth. On the third spot, on the inside of row 2, Eric Violet, another one of our D2D Racing. And on the outside there, John Allen. On the fourth row in TCR, Scott Brooks and Eduardo Lorente. Making up the fifth row here, Eduardo Cabal and Jay Shallington. Followed by our own Austin Knight and Andre Saunders. And last but not least, in the TCRs, Tom Baker out of the Northwest Racing Team. All right, so we are going to have ourselves a start. We'll do a full pace lap here, and I think some of the strategies we're going to see tonight is going to be a 75-minute race, one pit stop expected for most of these drivers. It's going to be a attrition. It's going to be staying clean. And with a track like this, as we've talked about the harrowing nature of Mosport, it's going to be a matter of trying to not put it away, throw it away on the first couple of corners, because as we've talked about, turn 1 being treacherous, turn 2 being legendary treacherous with a double apex off camber high speed, turn 3, turn 4, and then you get into that Moss hairpin. This place is going to be, this opening laps for both classes could be really set the tone for how this race could go as the race unfolds. First, we will do a split start. GT4s, of course, will take their own green flag as they come off turn 10 down the short front straight. It is a very, very short front straight from turn 10 to the green flag. The TCR group will take their own start. They will pace themselves and take their own green flag coming off of turn 10 and onto their own front straight shortly after the GT4s do the same thing there. So we do have a mixture of the BMWs and the Porsches. You can see there by that shot, a whole mess of BMWs, about 5 of them right there leading the first 2.5 rows of this field, with the Porsches making up the next couple of rows behind. But some of that is just some of the talent we've got here. It's difficult to overcome regardless of what they're driving. And Greg, we've talked about that. Some of the front runners like Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin, Robert Hartley, these guys just like that BMW. But tonight, it's going to be just staying clean early regardless of what you're driving.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter if you're driving a BMW. It doesn't matter if you're driving a Porsche. It doesn't matter if you are teammates, as we see all of those similarly liveried cars from D2D Racing sitting up at the front of the TCR field, and the Orion Racing cars up towards the front of the GTR field, the GT4 field. The key here is to get into that rhythm early, to get heat in the tires, and it's going to be difficult as they make their way now down towards turn 8 here and about ready to get set up for the green flag. It's going to be difficult. You got to get the heat in the cars. You've got to get things ready to roll here, and then make it through those first couple laps, get into that rhythm, and then let the race play out. But I think that's going to be the key here as our leaders make their way now down onto the front straight. And let's see now, do we have the green flag in the air? The green flag is in the air, and the race is on as Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin side by side coming down into turn 1. We now look a little bit further back. We've got our TCR drivers. They are getting ready, and as soon as they come up towards turn 8, they should be ready to go here. They are all still formed up and lined up and ready to go as Mike Dam leads Elvis Rankin in the GT4s as they come down into turn number 3 and then 4, and then get set up here as they come down and they're breaking into the Andretti into the Moss corner, not the Andretti hairpin. Wrong track, wrong country.
Andretti's the next straightaway here right now. This isn't Laguna Seca.
No.
Another very difficult corner, but that's for a different week. But yeah, as you already start to see difficulties here at the Moss hairpin, as I see cars off in the background there, but the front of the field is through clean.
Yeah, and it looks like Robert Hartley, who lost a position to Travis Schwenke on the start. He had a little trouble on exit. Kevin Ford in the number 32 car, he apparently had some issues coming through turn 5B, the second part of the Moss corner here, as our leaders now and make their way through into turn number 8 for the very first time, and still pretty much looks like about a 6-car, actually 7-car battle for the lead. Our top 3 have stretched out just a little bit. A little move there is Tony Kernan in the number 84 car moves over to the side, and now side by side coming down through turn 1.
Oh, big
down
slide in the
further down the
background.
hill. Oh, and he had
That's
a driver
Mazur
go off.
Azmi in one of the Porsches.
Yeah, that was the number 15 of Mazur Azmi going off. Had trouble at turn 1, spun across the track into the wall driver's right. So that also caused the back end of the GT4 field, as well as our TCR cars, to check up just a little bit.
Interesting there. What we'd seen there for a second was looked like Elvis Rank was challenging Mike Dan a little bit as it came around turn 1, in between a little short shoot there to turn to turn 2. Eventually falling back in line as they went into turn 2. But it's interesting at least to see him try that. Perhaps Mike Dan didn't get a great run off of the turn 10 there. But this little train of 6 is starting to pull away a little bit. The one I like in this little train is going to be Tony Kernan there. As you can see him in that blue Porsche there at the trailing end. I think this is a track that might suit his style. Perhaps he also maybe will save a little bit of fuel and jump some folks in the fuel stop. Be interesting to see how aggressive he is really in this race.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Hartley did manage to get around him coming out of turn 2 on the run down the Quebec corner. But I think you said we'll have to see how things go here on the long run. And that Porsche definitely, I think, will be in position to make up ground. And there we go. If you take a look on the replay, a little bit of a view there into Mazur Azmi's wild ride coming through turn 1. It actually wasn't that wild. He got had the rear end of the car step out on him, could not get it back underneath him, and just a little bit.
As you and I talked earlier today, I did the exact same thing in a Skippy race here yesterday.
Yeah.
You put a little bit wide going through turn 1, and it snaps back, hits that inside wall. Easy to do, unfortunately for him, that puts him on the toe back in the pits. Yeah,
all it takes with that downhill out of turn 1, if you breathe on the throttle just a little bit, transfers that weight forward in the car, and around you go. As we're watching now our battle for the lead in TCR, and sitting up at the top right now is Andrew List. He started in 3rd. He is currently your leader. Sitting 2nd, Brandon Whitworth, who was our believe our pole sitter. And then we've got Eric Violet in the number 89 cars running in 3rd. Right back behind him is John Allen in the 101 car. Those top 4. I don't want to call it a breakaway, because you'll notice sitting right back behind John Allen is Eduardo Lorente, as well in the 071 car, making up some ground. And there's Eduardo, that beautiful. And let's see, who did we have go off?
That's Allen.
That was the 101 of John Allen.
And right behind him, the car looks just like him.
Yeah,
that's
the number 10 of Eduardo Cabal, I believe, that went off as well.
Kind of following into that corner. That's easy to do. You brake a little bit too late in the car. The way that corner is built, it's got nice and grip as you go to turn in, and some of the grip goes away because it kind of flattens out. And if you haven't gotten your speed off by that point, he just swings you all the way to the outside. And here we go. We mentioned about the TCR cars going side by side down the Andretti straightaway as they set up for turn number 8 and get back in line. And as we saw Lorente and Allen side by side going down the straight, neither one could really make up a position there. It's a really very tough running, but it is now a pretty good train in TCR back behind our leaders, behind Andrew List and Brandon Wentworth. And they're putting in some very quick times at the front. And, I'm just kind of waiting as the typical TCR group starts going side by side early. We're not seeing that yet. They're all kind of staying in line, doing their thing, maybe playing the attrition game early. A lot like what we're seeing here at the front of the GT4s as well. They're all just sort of staying in line, waiting for somebody to just fade a little bit, waiting for the mistakes to happen as opposed to forcing anything. Yeah, now these times, there's always a difference between race pace and what you can set in practice or qualifying. When I was watching the times a little bit earlier in practice today, Mike Dam was the fastest driver in the GT4s, ran a 1:23.1. So currently
just about 2/10 off of that right now, as Dam sets the fastest lap of the race so far at a 1:23.35. And then in the TCR class, where List, I believe, has your fastest time of the day at a 1:26.32. In practice, we were down to a 1:25.8. That is the time that Brandon Whitworth sent. Well, it didn't send, but he ran, and so there's still a little bit more time, but I think, we're still waiting for some heat to come into the tires also here, Larry.
Whitworth here at 26.1 now is setting the fastest time in that TCR group on that last time by, so they are definitely setting quick times and keeping it close there between List, Whitworth, and Violet. Your top three right now in the TCRs, kind of as expected, those D2D racers, that whole team, as we talked to Bobby Childs last week during the VIR race. These guys, they race to be close, and they also get a lot of practice together. They maintain a quick pace, but when it comes time to race, sometimes it's one man for himself, as we might be seeing right here, as Whitworth starting to get on the back of List, might be ready to make a move.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it looks like the patience may have run out already, and we're only 6 laps into what should be. I believe we're probably looking at probably somewhere along the line, somewhere along the lines of 53 laps or thereabouts tonight. All right, we're on board right now with Whitworth sitting right behind our leader in TCR, Andrew List, as they make their way now down into. Looks like into and around turn 7 and turn 8 at the end of the Andretti straightaway, and they're going to come up here just past the pit in and onto the front straight. You can see a little bit of slip there from the rear of Andrew List's car. Now, Larry, we talked about, of course, the pit stops that these drivers are gonna make, and the one thing I always learned from racing my front wheel drive Hondas is that the rear wheels don't do a heck of a lot in a front wheel drive car. They're basically there to keep the under tray from sliding around on the pavement. And we're seeing that little bit of slip. Of course, I mean, that's not so bad at all this early in the race, but I would expect that when these drivers, at least in the TCR class, when they come in for their pit stops, besides taking the fuel that they're going to need, I wouldn't expect for them to take rear tires, maybe take front tires in order to get their way to the end of the race, because these TCR cars, they're real
especially
hard
given
on
the
the
75-minute length of this race, a little longer than maybe some of our other 60-minute, and given the high speed, especially through those S's and down these off-camber corners, even like this turn 3 that we're seeing here, that puts a lot of abuse on those front tires. So would not surprise me at all if the TCR guys just take those 2 front tires. It's a minimal time impact to your pit stop anyway. But I'm watching this battle here of Rankin and Dam, and Elvis is keeping his right there, keeping the pressure on the back of Mike Dam, waiting for Mike to even just the slightest bit of a slip, the slightest bit of a missed apex. That might have been enough. We'll see if Elvis can make a move up here going towards turn 9.
Yeah, and you'll see now that both Dan and Rankin have really separated themselves out from Travis Schwenke in number 16. Yeah, here he comes up the left-hand side. Of course, as they get down to the end of the Andretti straightaway here, the position that you're going to want to have is to the inside driver's right here. And as they make their way around, Dam manages to hold on to the position, but he pushes just a little bit wide there on the entrance to turn 9, which might impact his speed coming onto the front straight. We'll have to see if Rankin can take advantage of it.
It's easy to defend up there. If you just stay right of the track coming up the Andretti straight and hold your line through 9, it's very, very difficult if they're going to get any position behind you towards turn 10 as you get through 9. But if you make any mistake through 9 and leave that door open, the guy's got to run through 10. The real opportunity here for Rankin might be to just maybe try and get alongside coming off a 10 should there be any bit of a slip. Maybe one of those, you can't be patient in this race, which is why he's staying so close, waiting for that one little slip up for Mike Dam. But as soon as he sees it, he's got to pounce. He just can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and as they go and they make their rise back up the hill here around the left-hander and now through the hairpin and back out onto the straight here, still nose to tail looking like mirror images of one another. And there you go. Looks like Rankin once again starting to move just a little bit to the inside, gets a little peak but I think he's probably a little bit further back than he was last time, Larry. Oh, look, but he's going to try it.
But he backed out the last time. He's going to try to stay in there, but as I mentioned kind of in the opening, how difficult it is to stay on that outside through 9. He's going to try this combo move.
And he's still up there. And as they come through turn 10 and onto the front straight, Mike Dam manages to hold on to the position. You know, Larry, you know, the challenge that you have here, even with all these high-speed corners, is that each one of them is tied together by, really, with the exception of the Andretti straight, you know, a very short straightaway. You just don't have you don't have the room to try and outbrake somebody. And you know, even if you get close and you can get up to their quarter, you know, it's just a question of whether or not, you know, they have the ability and, you know, and the fortitude to hold onto that car through a corner.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's why you're constantly waiting for them to just sort of make a mistake. You've got to just pressure and pressure and pressure. And that's why I'm loving watching this battle right now, because Elvis is waiting for Mike Dam to just get one little foot wrong, one little inch wrong somewhere that he can maybe get his nose through. And you think about, you know, a lot of us have gotten on the sim, we'll run these 20-minute or whatever, you know, public races and C and the D-League races, whatever. Watching this happen, we are 12 minutes into a 75-minute race. This is going to go on for an hour and 15 minutes, folks. This is not just a little bit, we're just going to see it, it's going to happen for 10 minutes, then we'll separate. This is, we saw this last week or 3 weeks ago at Barber Motorsports Park, where this went on for an hour. This is going to continue, and think about, if you're Elvis Rankin, the intensity that you have to have, like here, just to say, I think I can get my door next to him to hold him in that line. Or if you're Mike Dam saying, I can't let Elvis on my inside, how intense that is to keep this up, you know, for 10 corners for 75 minutes.
Yeah, oh, without a doubt, and just constantly having to reassess him there for a moment. Mike Dam did allow Elvis Rankin down to the inside going into turn number 1, not quite close enough. As we jump back over and give you that split screen view, not only our overall leaders, Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin, but moving back to the lead in TCR. Where still sitting up at the top of the field is Andrew List in the number 61 car. He's got Brandon Whitworth right behind, and then about 2 car lengths back from there is Eric Violet in the number 89 car as they make their way through. Those 3 drivers have finally separated themselves out from the rest of the TCR field. Next closest car is going to be Eduardo Lorente, who had that off earlier. And he is about, I'd say, 15 to 20 cars back from our top 3. As Lorente actually just gets around Scott Brooks, will put him now back up into 4th position.
Yeah, I'm amazed that, again, we've got this 2-way battle at the front of the GT4s. Now we've got this 3-way battle right now for 3rd in the GT4s. Then you've got the 3-way battle in the front of TCRs, followed by this next wave battle here, as we're seeing on screen now, in the TCR group. As we're looking here as the, I believe that this
I think John Allen and Cabal, the 101 in the 10 car, the 2 drivers that had gone off at Moss Corner earlier, and they are, as you can see, back underway. And right behind those 2 drivers, we do have Jay Shallington in the number 8 as well. And going around.
That should be.
That 72. Is the 72 car.
That's Andre Saunders.
Andre Saunders.
Yeah. That's at the hairpin. It's very difficult to keep the car pointing in the right direction. And especially the front drive car, where the front tires are just doing everything to get the car slowed down, to get it turned around. Never an easy task. But here's the next wave battles we were talking about there in GT4.
This is the battle for 3rd in GT4.
Ford and Kernan.
And you saw a little bit earlier, we do have Kevin Ford in got view into his home and in his racing rig there. We were watching a little bit earlier to see how he's handling the pressure in real life as they make their way through. And now back up to the leaders with Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin. And now Rankin side by side with Dam as they come through turns 8 and 9. Rankin's going to try the over-under going into 10.
This is that combo move, and there it goes.
Oh, look at that. Dam runs a little wide on exit. We'll see if that affects his run down to turn 1, and I think it has, Larry, as Rankin now has the inside position going into turn 1, but of course the track is going to very quickly move back to the left as you go into Clayton Corner down at 2.
It just shows you how difficult a pass is here. Elvis is able to get alongside him in 9, pushing him into a bad exit of 9 into 10 and a bad exit of 10 over the front straight. And then you still had Mike Dam having a terrible line through 1 because he's got Elvis Rankin on his right and he's taking an outside line through 1, but because it sets up the inside of 2, Elvis has nowhere to go but back out of it and do it all over again. That's how difficult this place is to pass, but that's the skill required. It's beautiful to watch how this goes, but it's so challenging to drive. I love it. I normally don't really like tracks that are so difficult to pass, but there's something about this place that it's just it's artwork to watch it play out in front of you.
It really was. Now, as you were talking, Larry, we had the split screen view up here on track. Of course, our 2 leaders, Dam and Rankin. But then also in the other view, we had Schwenke, Ford, and Kernan, the 16 car, the 32 car, and the 84 car. And they are slowly but surely making their way back up to our leaders. In the last lap, they've made up here on 3 or 4 car lengths as we had all that side-by-side action with Dam and Rankin as they now make their way down the front straight once again.
Yeah, it might be why Elvis might just stay in line a little bit longer, because the more he slows down Mike Dam, the more these guys start to catch up a little bit. He's probably watching that relative screen and see it'd be smart to do. Doesn't want to bring any more friends to the party than he has to. Good shot there of Kevin Ford, one of the Ricmotech Motorsports, one of the men responsible for this series. You have no idea how much work Kevin Ford does to put this series on, and Greg, you and I know how much work, because we get to see some of that results of some of the research he does for us. So thanks, Kevin. It's fun watching you out there right now, sitting in 4th at this GT4 class.
All righty, and as they make their way up, here we go. We're going to jump back to the leaders in TCR with Andrew List and Brandon Whitworth, and right behind them, we still have Eric Violet in the number 89 car. He is hanging tight as those drivers make their way out of turn 10 onto the front straight here to continue on another lap. And as we've seen the challenges that Elvis Rankin has had trying to make his way around Mike Dam, I suspect that here Brandon Whitworth, he's running through probably the exact same thing. The only difference is he can't even get up beside our leader Andrew List here, that he's kind of stuck back there about 2 car length and a half, 2 car lengths back.
Yeah, he hasn't even had so much as a sniff of the side doors there, of the side of that car of Andrew List in probably about 15 minutes. Not really since the opening lap, which shows you how good List has been driving.
And we had a little bit of brake lock up there from List coming through turn 5B, the second half of Moss Corner. It manages to get it back underway, but even with that little mistake there, Larry, Whitworth just cannot seem to get a break, cannot move any closer.
Yep. And all List has to do is just sort of hug the inside and try to keep that door closed on the inside, but doesn't need to here, because they don't draft all that well. These cars have got just plenty of power to overcome any bit of draft, so it's not like you're going to get a great pull. These things aren't exactly like the old Formula cars, whatever, where they just tuck in with the draft and go right on by. These things, they're able to punch through that wind pretty easily, and which means the trailing car doesn't have much of an advantage. They've got to do it all on their own.
No, absolutely they don't. And the one weakness, especially when you hear new drivers get into that TCR car, the weakness that they have is typically under braking, and it's real hard to keep a handle on that car as you go and you lower the speeds, and the aero plays less of a part. It's typical to have the front end lighten up on you and maybe wash out a little bit, but here at Mosport, you just don't see that often because of the high speeds here, almost all the way around the circuit.
Well, we've seen already a couple of those TCR cars have struggled with turn 5, which is probably the hardest braking point of the entire track. We saw John Allen on one of the opening laps go into 5 and put the car all the way on the outside of that hairpin, struggling under brakes. We've seen a few other cars do the same thing. It's exactly what you're saying. It's very difficult to keep that car pointed right. You get all that weight over the front end, and sometimes that back end wants to dance a little bit under braking.
Exactly. All right, we're back to the battle for third right now in GT4. We've got Travis Schwenke, Kevin Ford, and Tony Kernan. Now, Kernan and, Larry, we were talking about Kernan a little bit earlier. He is our highest driver right now in one of the Porsche Caymans, our top 4 drivers, all running the BMW M4s, and that Cayman is hanging in tight as he moves over there. Oh, and he had a run, and moving over to cover was Ford. And great move there by Ford. Let's see if Ford can not only...
Yeah, Ford's not just trying to cover. Ford's trying to pick up a position.
Exactly.
And he does.
Yep, and there you go. Ford gets around Travis Schwenke, so move Kevin Ford now up to third in the GT4 class, and sitting right in the back of that pack is Kernan in the Porsche. But you know, Larry, he showed me something coming out of Moss that last time by. He had a great run, and if it weren't for Ford trying to be opportunistic, I think Kernan could very easily be in fourth, if not third himself.
Yeah, Tony Kernan had a great run coming off of there, and you're absolutely right that he was pouncing at the same moment that Kevin Ford pounced, and he just kind of had nowhere to go. Right now, Kernan looks like one of the quicker cars out here of these three. He's just at the trail end of it. I think if he's able to stick his nose and get on by, the good thing about being the third car in this train is when you can get by one, you can pick up the draft of the other maybe and just make the pass stick to put himself back up into the second of these three. So, but I also wonder if that car will be a little bit more of a bit easier on fuel perhaps at the trail end of this, so he might be able to cut his fuel stop down to maybe make a pass in the pits later in the race.
All right, and there you go, sitting right on drivers right now. We can see Kevin Ford on view, doing some adjustments there on his rig, currently running in third. Got the headband on, looking like he should be in a dancer-sized video. Definitely keeping all the sweat off his brow as he makes his way around now and tries to make it back up to our lead pack. Again, that three-car train currently sitting third, fourth, and fifth, not all that far off our leaders of Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin.
Now, remember a few minutes ago when we had seen a couple laps, 4 laps ago or so, when Elvis Rankin almost was able to make that pass stick on Mike Dam, and we looked at the gap from Elvis back to Schwenke at the time, it was a little over 3 seconds. Notice the gap now, it's about 5 seconds, and that's because Elvis has stopped trying to make moves on Mike Dam. The two of them put their head down. Meanwhile, these three have mixed it up. The Schwenke, Ford, and Kernan had their own mix-ups a little bit, which slowed them down, really grew that gap between the 1-2 lead down to the 3-4-5 battle.
Yeah, now, although Dam and Rankin have really stopped their intercar battling here, we're going to have to see how things play out as our leaders now are starting to make their way through traffic. And you just saw we had one of our drivers in the TCR class just drop off the track right ahead of our leaders here, and that may start to complicate things as these GT4 cars start to come up on these TCR trains. Now, it looks like Andre Saunders in the 72 car. He is in the pits, Larry, and looks like he has been in the pits now for over 9 minutes. So definitely trying to get some damage, I think, repaired to that car.
Yeah, he could be, as we had seen him in a couple of incidents there. Interesting thing about these, I don't know with the speeds here if there's going to be a huge speed difference through the corners between these cars, which is probably a good thing for the GT4 cars. They might be able to just make clean passes on that Andretti straight, but if they catch them in some of the little short straights, they may just be stuck behind them unless the TCRs are able to just move out of the way and let them by. It depends on if the TCR is in their own battle and willing to give up that track position to the car they're trying to chase.
Yeah, well, and we just saw Elvis Rankin try to make a move on our leader, Mike Dam, as they came out of turn 1, as they were coming up on some of our TCR traffic. And I think they're coming up right now on Scott Brooks in the number 94 car. Pardon me, Brooks is the driver who went around right ahead of our leaders a little bit earlier, but they're starting to come up, I believe, on Eric Violet in the 89. So let's take a look here as our leaders now start to make their way through.
That's passing Eduardo Lorente there.
Yeah.
And well, I mentioned it earlier, it's kind of like using a bit of a pick, you know, instead of a basketball analogy. Trying to get a bit of a pick, get a little bit of help, somebody to block you, and Elvis Rankin trying to see if that works. Stay on the outside through 9 here, kind of like what we had seen Kevin Ford do a few minutes ago.
Well, let's see if he can make it work this time by. And looks like Dam still is going to have position going into turn 10.
See if it's enough of a run now for Elvis to get alongside down the short straight towards 1. This looks exactly like it did about 5 laps ago, doesn't it?
I think we've been here before, Larry, as they're still side by side coming out of 1, but you'll notice Dam still had about a half a car on Rankin as they came out of 1, switch over to the left-hander Clayton Corner over at turn 2, and so once again cementing that lead is Mike Dam in the number 93.
He
car.
shuts that door when they get through turn 1, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he's done it now, I think, 5 or 6 laps here out of the 19 that, or probably out of the 18 complete laps that we've run.
He says,
he's got
to Elvis, we might be teammates, but this door is about to shut hard. You better be out of the way.
Right, as they come through and out of Moss onto the Andretti straight. Let's take a look here. Now that time by didn't look like Rankin got a good jump off the corner. And he is a little bit further back, but I think what's going to be a challenge, they're coming up on one of those TCR cars. Is that is
John Allen?
Yeah, that is John Allen in I think the 101 car, and he's going to split them. Split our 2 overall leaders coming through turns 8 and 9.
Which this is not good for Elvis. He might lose a little bit of gap here. He'll need to get by John Allen as they come onto the front straight quickly, so he can get that ground back up to Mike Dam as quickly as he can. But look at the pace at which we're doing this. That means that these guys are lapping now 4th place in the TCRs. We are a third of the way through this race. They could potentially double lap the TCR field all the way through the leaders before this 75-minute race is up.
All right, let's take a look here. We're dropping back now, and this is the battle for third in GT4. We've got Kevin Ford, Schwenke, and Tony Kernan. And Kernan now all over the back of Schwenke, and Ford playing traffic to a T, makes his way around, and I believe that was Cabal that he went around, and he's going to Cabal is going to move over there as they come through, as they come up the hill and out. So both Schwenke and Kernan now get by as well, but they've I think fallen out of the draft to Kevin Ford.
Yeah, Kevin Ford wisely was able to get by, just maybe luck, a little wise, a little bit of both, to be able to use that car a little bit to his advantage. Now you can see that gap is about 1.5 seconds now between Ford to Schwenke behind him, and Schwenke still all the pressure behind him of Kernan just wanting to get by, and Kernan's waiting for someone else to come along that maybe he can use to slow up Schwenke a little bit, maybe try to make a double pass around Schwenke and the lap car at one time.
Yeah, well, they're coming up right behind Eduardo Lorente, the 071 car, as they come through turn 1, and not quite close enough to get that pass made as they make the run up to 2. And wow, looks like Kernan's going to just throw that car right underneath Lorente's car to get that done, and he really had to do that, Larry, or he was really at risk of losing the scent to Schwenke.
I appreciate that sportsmanship there for Lorente to give him all that room. Lorente put himself in a difficult spot down the outside of turn 2, but you're absolutely right that Kernan had to stay where he was. He had to stay ground with Schwenke. He could not lose behind him for an entire turn 2 sequence all the way down to 3. It was not a great run there for Schwenke. We'll see if Kernan's able to make up ground here down the Andretti straightaway.
All right, and let's see as they do. Here is Kevin Ford now makes his way around John Allen's number 101 Audi TCR car, and Schwenke and Kernan are going to come up on him here as they go into turn 8. And look at this, John Allen I don't want to say he shut the door, but yeah, he's hanging over there, trying to let those GT4 cars by as best he can.
Sure, hey, you're doing the right thing. You're supposed to stay online and then, lift a little bit to let them by. You don't want to go way offline because you don't want to put yourself and the passing cars at risk. From coaching in driver schools, you don't want to put everybody at risk by going crazy offline.
All right, and so now Schwenke and Kernan do manage to clear John Allen as we jump back up to our leaders as they continue to make their way through the field, and not much has changed here.
The more they stay the same with these two. Still Dam and Rankin holding down the game here at the front, 1 and 2. And I just wonder, at what point does Elvis just say he's content sitting back here and maybe try and make the jump in the pits? And at what point does he say it's time to just do an undercut?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Is a question: do you go for the overcut? Do you try and make it on the track, or do you try to pick it up in the pits? And and last week we saw this in the sprint car series. Do you sit back and sit in the draft And is that enough to, oh, we've got a driver who's taking his car right off track just ahead of our leaders. And that is Eric Violet in the number 89 car. He's going for the wild ride. You know, that car's almost as good in the grass, if it was only an all-wheel drive Audi, but it isn't.
It's just the front drive versions, exactly. Yeah. But, that's his age. Just keep your foot into it. But that takes him out of that top 3 mix. He was there with his teammates. He's now a couple seconds behind them.
Yeah, exactly. It is now a 2-car battle for the lead in TCR. And our TCR leaders now, you can see, just ahead of our overall leaders. We've got List and Whitworth going at it. And Whitworth not any closer to Andrew List than he was 10 minutes ago.
Not any further away either.
Yeah, so, but, we'll need to see here as there. Dam and Rankin try to make their way through. If Andrew List has to start defending Brandon Whitworth, Whitworth may just try to follow one of those BMWs right on through and use them as a pick.
This is always my most favorite, I hate that term, but my most favorite moments here in these kind of races where the 2 leaders are passing the 2 leaders and no one wants to give up anything. Who actually gives up what here? Because you can already see Elvis is going to try and use a little bit but doesn't want to get caught behind. Is it a clean move? That was boring. That was clean.
Yeah, Whitworth just stayed in line, didn't try to sneak up the inside and use the draft off of the back of Elvis Rankin, and it is still 2 by 2. The only difference is the order.
We should see that happen again near the end of the race. It's 32 minutes in. They do this again, similar pace, 65 minutes. That'll be 10 minutes before the end of the race. We should see another round of leaders of GT4 passing leaders of TCR, as we may have a change in the lead potentially here in GT4.
Yeah, Rankin's as close as he's ever been, but still as they go into 2 side by side, and now as they roll up the hill, this is typically where Rankin would have fallen back, and now moving into the lead, at least for the moment, as they come through turn 3, it is Elvis Rankin in the number 1 car. Drop Mike Dam. It took 24 laps, but drop Mike Dam now back into 2nd.
Oh, those are the hardest 24 laps. I think Elvis has worked it a long time, but he saw that moment of opportunity I talked about earlier. Is you just have to wait for that one little moment, and it doesn't matter when or how, you just take that and pounce. And what a great pass there for Elvis, able to make that stick by going around through turn 1 and sticking it all the way around through 2. That's the hardest place on the outside of 2. But Elvis Rankin, now your new leader here in GT4 and the overall in the race.
All right, and as he makes his way through, he's actually opened up a little bit of ground on Mike Dam as they head through. And, the big thing here now is with Rankin in the lead and Dam sitting back in the draft, Rankin is likely going to be using up at least a little bit more fuel, maybe not much, than Mike Dam here. Now we'll have to see where these drivers and when these drivers decide to pit in the GT4 cars. I would suspect that probably around between lap 30 and lap 35. We think that if they started off with that full tank, and these cars start off with only about a 48% fuel fill, likely can go about 35 laps. All right, we're back to our leaders in TCR, sitting right behind the overall leaders. It is still Andrew List in the 61 and Whitworth in the 42, nose to tail. And I think we could probably come back to them in 20 minutes, and it'll probably be exactly the same if they continue to run these nice clean races.
If you're Whitworth, you're doing this. Oh, there it is. Forget having to wait for a while.
Yeah,
just
there he
happened.
goes. He drives right off the track. And Larry, what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to take a quick little break here on the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, sponsored by Performa, Elite Texas Graphics. And when we come back, and we've got a lot of action here, but when we come back, we'll take a look at that change in the lead in TCR and see if anything's changed up front. We'll be right back.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name-brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com. Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
And welcome back to the Ricmotech Sports Car Series presented by Performa Elite Texas Graphics. Just before we went to break, we were talking about how the more things change, the more they stay the same in TCR. But Larry, right here, and you can see the replay right on the screen, a change for the lead in TCR as Brandon Whitworth got around our former leader, Andrew List.
Yes, he did. All it took was that little bit of a miss on the braking. We talked earlier how difficult these cars are to control under a hard braking, and there it was. Even the leader who had the lead at the start of the race, Andrew List, going into the Moss hairpin, puts it a little bit wide, catches dirt, is able to keep going. And then List says, hey, what a perfect time. I'm going to go to the pits. So Andrew List has taken his pit stop as well. So he's not even in the same shot as Whitworth. Whitworth's going to have to wait till his pit stop to figure out where he really stands relative now to Andrew List.
Yeah, and so that moves Eric Violet in the number 89 car up to second in TCR, currently sitting just about 5 seconds back from Whitworth, and that will be the challenge we'll have to see as we watch our leader, Brandon Whitworth, in TCR, the number 42 car, the D2D iRacing machine, when he decides to head into the pits. Right ahead, we've got some of our slower TCR traffic as well as the GT4s making their way through. At the front of the field, Elvis Rankin and Mike Dam, neither one have taken to the pit lane. However, Tony Kernan has, and there you go. You can see the Porsche of Kernan almost runs right into the back of our TCR leader, Brandon Whitworth, as they both come down the pit lane at the same time.
Yep, Whitworth probably thinking this is a great time to pit now. He wants to know where Andrew List really is on the track. Let's see where he comes out from his pit stop. He's got a good shot there.
And there's a List now making his way down through the Andretti straightaway.
List has clean track right now. Nobody around him.
Yeah. Now your current leader in TCR is Eric Violet in the number 89 car. He has not come in for a pit stop yet. I don't think Whitworth has made it out of the pit lane yet. So let's take a look and see what happens.
There he is. It should be a easy way to catch that up. And as they get through traffic, don't be surprised if these two are nose to tail, just flip-flop from where they were for so many laps. But back to these leaders who have also flip-flopped through their pass. Elvis Rankin got by Mike Dam, but these two have not made their pit stop yet, as most of the GT4 field has not made their stops.
Yeah, at this point, Kernan was the very first. Both he and I believe Ray Bader, first drivers in. Actually, first drivers in to the pits in GT4. Travis Schwenke now takes to the pit lane. Pits from 5th position.
I'll be interested to see where he comes out relative to Tony Kernan. Remember, Kernan and Schwenke were nose to tail for a big chunk of this race. Kernan looked like he was going to try a bit of an undercut. I'm wondering if Schwenke here is trying to respond to that undercut.
Now, notable is our TCR leaders had gone into the pits. Both of them did decide to take new front tires. Again, not much of a time penalty, and certainly not if both drivers decided to do it, but both betting on the fact that they may not have front grip towards the very end of this race if they did not change. So we've got our leaders now here overall, Elvis Rankin and Mike Dam making their way down through the Andretti straightaway.
By the way, just looking at the timing board here, List was able to make up a couple of seconds on his pit stop after that bit of an off and back on. He's able to make a couple of stops, a couple of seconds up through his pit stop to catch up to Brandon Whitworth. So I'll be curious to see at the end of the race, did he take on enough fuel to finish this race, as his pit stop was a couple seconds shorter than Brandon Whitworth's?
Yeah, matter of fact, right now he's about 0.3 of a second back, and I think at the time, after the incident, before he actually made it to the pit lane, he was about 0.6 back. So he definitely made up some time there.
Yeah. The other one, going back to the GT4 class, who's already stopped. We talked about Schwenke and Kernan. It looks as though Kernan was able to come out in front of Schwenke, currently 8th and 9th on your leaderboard there.
All right, so we've got the undercut there that took place, and that puts, as you mentioned, 8th and 9th right now for Kernan and Schwenke. We'll have to also then see Kevin Ford who was in that battle with Schwenke and Kernan. He had separated himself out in traffic just a little bit and is currently running third. He has not pitted yet either. We'll be watching that to see where he comes out on track in relation to Schwenke and Kernan, whether or not those two drivers can get back into that battle for the last step on the podium.
And he's got clean track right now. Again, nobody in front of him. There's maybe one TCR car way up there in front of him, but he's got clean track. And frankly, my opinion is if you've got clean track at this stage of the race, stay out there as long as you can.
Exactly.
Turn those laps. And these guys, I'm waiting to see, does Mike Dam decide to try an undercut, come in a lap early, or is he waiting to see if maybe he can do an overcut? Because I would suspect that he might need to do some sort of a differential pit stop to make sure he can come out in front of Elvis Rankin.
Yeah, no, last time by, Dam was about 1/10 of a second faster, and you can pretty much see that he made up maybe a half a car length, and he's back right onto the bumper of our leader, Elvis Rankin. The question would be, if Rankin takes to the pits, what kind of pace for that last lap or two could Mike Dam carry, and whether or not it would be enough to go ahead. But I'll tell you, we suspect that these drivers could get probably around 35 laps out of that initial fuel fill. They are starting to get perilously close to the end of that fuel window. So, there's the options for either of these drivers is starting to narrow considerably.
It really is. That's why I'm waiting to see, does Mike Dam decide to just pull that trigger and just go in now instead of waiting? Because he gets to make the call if he doesn't see Elvis going in. And there he goes. He is going to try a bit of an undercut. See if this pays off, and he's got a TCR car in the pits in front of him. We'll keep an eye on that, as Elvis is going to do at least one more lap without Mike Dam in his mirrors.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see whether or not having Dam back there and having to periodically check back to see exactly what your competitor might be doing, whether or not that will lead to slightly more pace from Elvis Rankin. Again, Rankin, his fastest lap of the race, a 1:23.1. Last time by, a 1:24.6. Both Dam and Rankin were running that pace in practice earlier today. As Mike Dam now exits the pit lane, he's back out on track. He is going to have some TCR traffic right ahead of him, though, that might complicate things as they make the run up towards turn 5.
A very effective pit stop there, though, just in the low 15-second stop time. One of the quickest we've seen so far of anybody who's stopped already in the GT4, so very good job for him there. We'll see if Elvis can match him when he decides to make his stop. He's going to need to if he wants to hold position, because, as we noted, they were nose to tail, bumper to bumper when this all started. We'll see if Elvis makes one more trip around the track or decides to come in right now.
Unless he can get around these two TCR cars, I think probably would be best for him to take to the pit lane.
There he goes.
And yep, and here he comes down the pit lane.
Mike Dam's able to navigate his way around the cars he was battling around, those TCRs. Elvis is going to make his way to his pit stall, and the battle is on. Who
here we
can
go.
come out in front?
As that GT4 car goes up onto the jack stand, so maybe he's changing some tires out as well, Larry, which is not something that we anticipated here, as Mike Dam now makes his way onto the front straight just as Elvis Rankin leaves the pit stall, hits pit out. Let's take a look. And I believe, Larry, we have a new leader.
He's going to hold that lead, is Elvis Rankin.
Oh, yep, there you go. You're right. I'm sorry. Yep, Elvis Rankin holds on to the lead, and he's got, if anything, he picked up some space there.
We'll call it the virtual lead because they have each taken the stops, whereas Kevin Ford and Robert Hartley have not taken their stops yet. So Kevin Ford officially is your leader of this race. We'll make sure Kevin gets his due. Kevin gets to lead a lap. But for the virtual lead, it is Elvis Rankin over Mike Dam by about 2 seconds. So
yeah, I was just going to say, I'm wondering, it looked like Dam might have been, as he came off the pit lane at the end of his pit stop, might have been held up just a little bit by those two TCR cars that he followed around for about 3/4 of a lap, and that is, for the moment, looks to be the difference.
I don't know about that, but I can look at the pit lane times and I can say that Elvis's is the quickest, and the pit stop time, Elvis's is the quickest. quite a bit quicker, in fact, than Mike Dam. So I'm starting to wonder, did Elvis take on enough fuel for this 75-minute race, or has been Elvis's MO the last couple of weeks in this, as well as the other Ricmotech series, taking on just enough fumes, or maybe not enough fumes, to get to the end? As Kevin Ford now finally making his stop.
And
Robert
it looks
Hartley
like we've got
also
Robert Hartley as well on the pit lane.
And that should be the entire field now making their final stops as Elvis Rankin resumes the lead. Mike Dam resuming second spot. And it looks like Tony Kernan is going to move himself back into all the way up into third after all these exchanges. Remember,
Yes,
he
he
and Schwenke
is.
had fallen behind Kevin Ford. Ford, though, is going to miss out on this pit exchanges. Wow, I did not see that coming at all.
No, he lost out big time on the pit exchange there, and you know, not that big a difference in pit stops between them. Kernan a 15.65, Schwenke a 15.95, Ford a 15.68. So Ford's actually the second fastest pit stop of the three, but lost out a little more than we expected.
I can only
in
suspect
traffic.
that, yeah, perhaps traffic or maybe a couple of his last couple laps before coming in may have caused him a little bit of time, because, wow, he was seriously about 2 seconds up on these guys before they came in for their pit stops. And it was Kernan that was the first of the three to stop, then Schwenke. Kernan was able to make the jump first, and now Kernan's able to make the double jump all the way from fifth to third. But now he's got a lot of work to do to hold that for the next 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, as they come through and onto the front straight here, you've already seen where Schwenke is really filling up the mirrors of Kernan as they come down the front straight. And you know, I'll be looking to see whether or not on some of these long runs that what we've noticed here is that the Porsche does not seem to have the top speed of the BMWs, and I kind of expected it to be the other way around. That coming out of Moss, the BMWs would have an advantage over the Porsche, but it seems to be on some of these longer stretches of the course. For example, coming out of Moss all the way down towards the end of Andretti, where the BMW just seems to have the legs that the Porsche doesn't.
Yeah, you can see, look at that. The BMW right in the back of Kernan's Porsche as they're coming through Moss. Kernan being extra cautious through that corner to get the run that he wants. And that may go back to what we had talked to Elvis Rankin about earlier in this season. The choice that he and Mike Dam did, the whole Ryan team, about choosing the BMW over the Porsche was its ability to be consistent and to be able to put consecutive laps in. It's fast, whereas the Porsche is a little bit more hairy edge, and that might be what you're seeing there from Tony Kernan. Was that car through a corner like Moss is just a little bit more difficult to do it every single time. You know, in 50 sometimes we're going to be Dam, and that's where we might see the same thing with either Kevin Ford or Travis Schwenke making moves on Tony Kernan. But at the front, speaking of that exact spot on the track,
Yeah, here we
Dam
go.
pressuring Elvis Rankin, trying to return the favor.
Yeah, and let's see if he tries to sneak underneath him going through turn 10. No, he doesn't, but this is where we see the tables reversed, and we'll see if Mike Dam tries to sneak underneath our leader, Elvis Rankin, going into turn 1. Not quite close enough to get it done there.
He's doing the same things we saw Elvis do, though, like you said about 20-30 minutes ago, where it's just every time he comes through 9, pressure, cut, try to push him to the wrong side of the track, and then flip-flop, push him again through 10 to the wrong side of the track, and try to get that run through 1. But what we did see from Elvis Rankin was he was able to go to the other side of 2 and stay on the outside of 2. But now, speaking of the outside of 2, that's Kevin Ford trying to make a move on Kernan, and that's only because Schwenke's already made it around Kernan.
Right, exactly. So in the battle for third right now, Travis Schwenke in the number 16 BMW. He is now on the last step of the podium. Then we've got Kernan and Kevin Ford. And Ford, who had been about 2.5, 3 seconds back from that battle between Schwenke and Kernan, he's right back into the thick of it. And once again, it looks to be as though the Porsche just does not quite have the legs and is not quite as stable as we have here. The battle for the lead. We'll jump back up to the GT4 cars here as the two teammates are now side by side once again coming through the 8, 9, and 10 complex. And Mike Dam in the number 93 car, he is really putting up a battle right now on the second half of the course with Elvis Rankin as they continue to come up with traffic here. I think he's ready to pounce.
Yeah, I think he really is. And at some point, he may have to do the same thing to Elvis that Elvis did to him, which is to try and take the outside line through 2. That might end up being his best shot. He's got about 20 minutes or so to think about which exact lap he's going to want to try that on. But that might end up being, you know, the man's man place to try and make a pass. It's, as we talk about the harrowing nature of this track, this is another one of those spots. But that turn 2 off-camber double apex left-hander, where Elvis made that pass, and it was that contact really close to it there for Dam on the back of Rankin going through 5. But yeah, love to see if Mike Dam is weighing his options of where he's going to make this pass. Turn 2 might end up being one of those options.
Yeah, and you saw there as they came into Moss.
Close.
Yeah, it was very close. I'm sure Elvis Rankin was just trying to be very deliberate and get a good run out of the corner. And Dam, who was looking to carry as much speed, because the last time by, Dam had a much better run out of turn 5 than our leader, and just couldn't do it as they come once again.
Big slide. Yeah, big slide through 9, but not able to hold any line for Mike Dam through 10. We get to do it all over again, but he is pressuring him on all sorts of sides. He's really throwing the kitchen sink right now at Elvis.
Yeah, he's throwing everything, and you can see using curb in corners, for example, coming through turn 9 that Rankin is not using, and he's literally trying to use every available inch that he has to carry a little bit more speed through the corners.
Yeah, he is. And at some point, he may start using these TCR cars and start coming through again. Remember, we talked about this early. As early as they got through the TCR field, we knew it was going to come around again. Well, here it comes. And
there we go. And for a moment there, it looked as though coming out of 2, heading towards 3, pardon me, Dam might have position, but not quite close enough as they come through the hairpin now. A lot of TCR traffic presenting itself to our leaders as they try to make their way through here, and this might be Dam's best chance as they start to come up on all this TCR traffic.
It just might be, and I think that may have been a little bit what helped Elvis to get around Mike Dam. If you recall, they had just gone past the leaders in TCR, which shook up the pace just a little bit through turns 9 and 10 on the front straight and slowed him up just a hair, which gave Elvis a chance to make the pass through turn 2. We'll see if that's the same thing that Mike Dam can use here on the back of Elvis as they go down the front straight.
And notice that little juke that Mike Dam made there coming down the front straight, as if to get that last little ounce of draft off the back of that TCR car. There before popping back to the inside as opposed to following our leader through. Talk about our leaders in TCR cars. Let's jump back up to the front of the field in TCR, where it is Andrew List and Brandon Whitworth back together again here as they make their way through. And
keep your eyeball, don't look too far, because just behind them is a Eric Violet, just about a second and a half behind this battle, waiting to make this another D2D 3-way battle, as always seems to be the case here in our TCR field.
Yeah, so even after having Andrew List go off track about halfway through the race, coming out of the Moss hairpin, he is back up and back in the lead with Whitworth running in second. And as you mentioned, the third of the D2D trio.
Oh no,
Eric Violet sitting right back behind.
Austin Knight just losing it there, coming into 8. Luckily behind our leaders in GT4. Hi, Austin. Good to see you again. And
of course, Austin, as you all know, was here calling these races before I jumped in, and this is his rookie season in the SCS and running here in the TCR cars. Of course, he has a lot of experience running these cars, but his first weekend running the series this year.
He just gave a little howdy, howdy, howdy to Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin as they went right on by him down the Andretti straight. And he just wanted to make sure he got himself on camera. So we gave
I was going to say, some people really, really need to hog the camera, and it sounds like Austin is one of them. All right, so we've got the split view here of our two class pairs of class leaders. To your left are GT4 leaders, Elvis Rankin and Mike Dam. To your right is Andrew List and Brandon Whitworth. as they make their way through. And again, very close, tight racing for the lead in both of these classes. All 4 of our leaders here have already completed their pit stops and continue on.
Yeah, this is just going to keep getting more and more intense as these laps begin to count down. As we're just over 12 or 20, a little less than 20 minutes to go, I guess. As Mike Dam continues to pressure, now he's able to get all the way alongside through 8 into 9.
Oh, and a little slide there, maybe a little contact coming through turn 9.
Every time he tries it, he gets a little closer, just like we saw Elvis get a little closer every time when he was trying it on Mike Dam in the early stages of the race. Mike Dam now doing the same thing to Elvis.
And now going around the outside, can Dam hold the line? Yes, he can, but looked as though Rankin had a little bit better run down the hill and out of turn 1 and cements that second, or probably that lead as they make their way back up the hill, out of Clayton Corner up towards turn 3. And
like
now
that
look
line, though.
let's jump over, Larry. Over on our right-hand camera is the lead, the battle for the lead in TCR. We've got side-by-side Andrew List and Brandon Whitworth. The 42 of Whitworth, for a moment he was there as they came down to turn 8, but now Andrew List puts his car back fully in front of the number 42 car as they come onto the front straight.
He has, after all the time that he was down, after his bit of a slip up there in turn 5 before the pit exchange, then that great pit stop, pit in, short pit stop, able to make up the ground, and now he's past Whitworth for the lead again, and they are pulling away from Eric Violette.
Yeah, even with that battling, and I guess probably that is the one advantage of not being able to pull up side by side all that often, Larry, and going into the corner side by side, is you can still kind of work your way clear of the cars behind. But now, again, now side by side again in the battle for the lead for TCR. We've got Andrew List and Brandon Whitworth. Sticking to the inside, holding his line is Andrew List. And, you know, you said it, as they come through Moss right now and onto the Andretti straight, you know, as long as you position the car correctly and don't impact your exit speed too much out of that corner, it shouldn't be that much of a challenge to hold on to the position in TCR as they make their way down the straight towards turn 8.
It takes a tremendous amount of car control skill to make a pass around 8 into 9. And you just have to have the perfect exit of 5 to make it work. If you can't do it one lap, you got to keep trying and trying and trying. And right now, with 15 minutes to go in this race, you're running out of chances to try. You've got about 10 more chances to give it a go as those laps are beginning to count down.
All right, Larry, and we're coming up on another break here as our leaders continue to go at it. You are watching the Extreme Motorsports Sports Car Series presented by Performa Elite Texas Graphics. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you in just a second.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com. Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name brand parts, Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go. Ricmotech.com.
And we're back with the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series presented by Performer Elite Texas Graphics. And we're going to be able to take you all the way to the checkered flag here as we are back with the battle for the lead with Elvis Rankin, Mike Dam, the '1 car, the number 93 car, the two D2D racing machine, or probably
Orion.
the two Orion racing machines, pardon me. Not to give short shrift to the folks in TCR from D2D, but the Orion racing pair as they make their way through with just a few minutes left to go under green flag here as we continue to watch our leaders.
And these guys continue lap after lap to continue to try to pressure from Mike Dam on Elvis Rankin, trying to throw, as we've been saying, that kitchen sink at Elvis to see what he can make work. He's got a few more cars to work his way through of some lap traffic, and maybe that's going to end up being the factor. Is they're still coming up on a few more of them. As I think I see Eduardo Cabal is going to be the next victim of the TCRs to get lapped by these two. But we've seen this here where Mike Dam tries to get on the left side, coming through 8 onto 9. Not able to get very far there on Elvis to do anything through turn 10. But I think the best move for him might be, we had seen earlier, where he's able to get on the outside of 1 and try and stay down on the inside through 2. We'll see if he's able to make it work on one of his future attempts.
Yeah, we'll see as he has to get just a little bit closer. We're going to jump back into the battle for third right now, back behind our leaders, and it is Travis Schwenke in the number 16 car, then Tony Kernan, our only Porsche driver, up towards the front of the field in the 84, and then Kevin Ford in the number 32 car, and Kernan once again pushing Schwenke, and you can see here as he starts to make his way underneath. Can he make it stick?
Treacherous spot, great driving there for Schwenke to hang on that off-camber outside of 2, able to temporarily hold that spot. That is so hard to do. I really figured that was going to go to Kernan, but you can see something you don't see in the real world there. A little bit of blinking going on for Schwenke, yes, as the lead driver in this pack there. His connection not exactly meticulous tonight, and I tell you, that is so distracting for the trailing driver when the lead car you're trying to follow.
And there it is right there. Yeah, when the car just disappears for that briefest of moments and then reappears, and sometimes with some tire smoke associated with it. Here we go. It is the battle for the lead here as they come into turns 8 and 9, and it is Dam and Rankin. Dam to the inside, or probably Dam to the outside, Rankin to the inside, and once again, as both drivers take to the dirt on the exit, it is still Elvis Rankin holding on to the position.
Oh, so close that time. If he could have just been a little bit cleaner through 9, probably would have gotten a cleaner exit through 10 and had a shot down through 1. Unfortunately for Mike Dam, not able to be very clean through 9 and gave Elvis a nice clean exit through 10 and has to try it all over again. But as we said, running out of opportunities, down to probably about, let's see, about 10 minutes to go here. Probably only going to get about 6 more chances to try his move.
All right, and Larry, it is no longer a 3-car battle for third right now. It is a 4-car battle because the one driver, and we haven't spoken much about him today, Robert Hartley, in the number 3 car. He actually started on row 2, started in 3rd today, had given up a couple of positions. He is currently sitting 6th, and he is now back in this battle here for the last step on the podium as Travis Schwenke now has to go and protect once again on Tony Kernan's Porsche as they make their way back up the hill and into the hairpin. And let's take a look here as they come onto the Andretti straight. Who has the better run? And now with a little bit of a wiggle, Kevin Ford gets a little loose on exit, and let's see if this is what Hartley needs at least to move up into 5th place. Those two drivers are side by side.
Hartley's got the position because Hartley wants to be on that inside through 8. That's where you need to be because the outside just has no grip. We'll see if he can hold it on that inside.
And here we go as they set up, and they're still side by side. A little bit of contact between those two drivers as Hartley had gone to the dirt. Kevin Ford now moves all the way over to give him ground, and now probably the most room that they've had in about a mile and a half as we now have Hartley, the number 3 car moves up into 5th position, but that little side-by-side battle and the little bit of contact between Hartley and Ford has afforded both Travis Schwenke and Kernan just the little bit of breathing space that they might need here so that they can go and battle it out. Now, as you mentioned here, with just about 7.5 minutes left to go in this race, that battle for third place.
This is intense for just a spot on the podium here. All four of these drivers at one point in this race have held this third spot. We talked about how Hartley started there. Each one of the other three have been there for at least a lap at some point in this race, but only one of these drivers can finish there. And right now, Schwenke and Kernan seem to be the two positioned for it. But here we go, Mike Dam trying something different, trying a little bit of a fake, a little bit of a head bob there.
Oh, and drops a wheel into the grass and gets real loose on exit there.
Wow, that's the treacherous nature of this track. I really thought he was going to go around. Mike Dam able to keep it and gather it together to make another shot. But man, that for a moment looked like he was all going to go away in tears.
Yeah, I mean, he's really trying to make Elvis Rankin look in those mirrors. He's moving from side to side, and it almost bit him on the very end of the Andretti straight as he dropped the left front wheel into the grass, and you could see that the rear end of that car started to come around. He had to dial in the opposite lock, but he's made up the ground that he lost, Larry, and he's right back onto the bumper of our leader.
Fastest part of the track to put your left tires in the grass is definitely one of those cold brown kind of moments.
Yes.
Oof, but, you know, he did not lose any ground. He's right back at it with, like you said, we got about 6.5 minutes to go. This is going to get really dicey here as he just continues to put so much pressure on this young man, Elvis Rankin. Mike Dam trying to use some of the veteran knowledge to do something.
Yeah, and you can see there he straightened the car out and came off the corner just a little bit past the curbing there, using the grass once again. But Moss is where he seems to carry a little bit more speed than our leader, Elvis Rankin. And it usually helps him out as he comes down towards the end of the straightaway here. And let's see if he makes another move or he's going to hang back in line. He stays back in line this time around to complete lap 49. And we'll have to see what he can do as they come onto the front straight. Is he going to make that move down the inside of turn one, as Elvis tried on him so many times at the beginning of this race? As we jump back to the battle for third now, as Tony Kernan tries to come down the inside of Travis Schwenke, cannot get it done as they start to wrap up lap 49 as well.
I love watching this because Kernan, every time he makes a move, he's got Hartley behind him, kind of doing the opposite move. And every time Kernan tries something, he's going to give up potentially a spot to Hartley. Meanwhile, Schwenke, he's got all three of these guys, with Ford being the trailer of those three, to try and get by him. Any one of these guys could take the third spot, or all four of them could lose it, and it could be Chris Thorman. Who knows? Who could take this podium if this thing all ends badly?
Yeah, if it all ends in misery for the four of them. We'll have to see here as they now make their way through turn two and now dropping a wheel on the exit. But, you know, if you saw there, kind of a low-risk drop of the wheel there. It's actually an area where a lot of the grass has been worn away from cars doing it so much. Didn't impact Schwenke all that much. But, you know, I think Hernan now really having to watch behind him as much as he's trying to figure out what Schwenke is doing. And he's got to be, of all four of those drivers, probably in the worst position.
So tight in between there, just bumper to bumper. And that came in just trying to tuck underneath there. As Mike Dam once again trying to tuck inside here through these S's.
And great car placement by our leader, Elvis Rankin, as he holds off Mike Dam once again, as we're now at about 4 minutes left to go. So probably right around 3 laps left to go in this race.
But this is where it's interesting. We talked earlier about the pit stops. How Elvis came out 2 seconds in front of Mike Dam, and Mike Dam was able to catch back up here after the stops, but came out in front of him primarily with a shorter pit stop. And we know that Elvis has kind of shortened himself on fuel and had to do some fuel saving techniques. At this point, Elvis knows if he's going to make it or not. So I'm curious, is he worried? Is he sitting on pins and needles, not sure if he can make it? Is he worried if he's going to get the extra lap? Is it one of those? Or is he confident that he'll have enough fuel if they trigger an extra lap here at the end of this race?
Now you notice here as they come out of turn 5, this time around, Dam maybe just a little bit further off the rear bumper of our leader, Rankin. I thought that he might have gotten a little bit better run out of the corner, but perhaps not. We've seen where Dam typically gets a better run, but he's really just locked in right up on the rear bumper, Rankin coming out of 5, and he can't do anything with it. But here once again, as they head into turn 9 and onto the front straight, Rankin with good car placement doesn't really give Mike Dam anywhere to go.
I'm looking at the clocks, and they just crossed the line with 3 minutes to go, and they're turning laps at just under a minute and a half, which means they'll do 2 laps and still have time on the clock, which means we should have 3 laps to go, which means if you short-fueled your car, you might be in trouble.
Might not be ready for that very last lap. So we jump back to the battle for third, and once again, Kernan and Hartley trying to find their way around Travis Schwenke. And here we go. As Hartley making the move, comes down on the outside, going down into turn 2, and we now have a new 4th place runner in GT4. That is the number 3 car of Robert Hartley, Tony Kernan in his Porsche, the number 84 car. Drop him now back in the 5th, and Kevin Ford sitting back in 6th.
What a recovery run for Hartley, as you mentioned, on the opening laps. Had some troubles there, had been off in the grass and back on, and got himself shuffled to the back. We had seen him going through the S's and was back as far as about 7th or 8th. Now he's got himself back in 4th. He's got his eyes on his teammate Schwenke there for 3rd.
And again, Hartley currently running 8th in the points in his car, another one of the Orion Racing cars, after 2 race weeks. And we'll see if he can make up some more points here, as he's coming up right on Schwenke as they come around some of that slower TCR traffic towards turns 8 and 9. And I'll tell you, that last time by Larry, he had the pace at the end of the Andretti straight that if they do have 2 more laps to go, that may put him in a very good position for the last step on the podium. Of those 4 cars battling it out for 3rd, I think he's got the best pace.
But Kernan's not going to let that happen, as he's going to take the inside through 1, just like Hartley had done to him a moment ago. But can Kernan make it stick through 2?
He pushes Kernan wide, and Kernan now having some connection issues of his own here, and at least for the moment, as they come down and they set up now for the Moss hairpin, Tony Kernan now puts himself back in 4th position.
That took all the way through a dive move through 1, holding his line through 2, holding his line through 3 to finally complete that pass. That's how hard that is to do here. What a great move there.
Yeah, I mean, it took 3 turns to do it.
But he finally locked it.
Oh, there we go. As Schwenke has an issue coming out of the hairpin, loses pace, moves all the way over driver's right to try and recover. And now both Kernan and Hartley may make their way through. Let's take a look if Schwenke can if he can recover.
As it looks like we are going to be awfully close. I don't think a white flag was thrown. But we are on the white flag now. Last lap of the race. Mike Dam, if he's got anything left, any cards up his sleeves, going to have to find a way to throw them at Elvis Rankin right now.
All right, so we've got our leaders on the left-hand side. We've got the battle for 3rd right now on the right-hand side as our leaders start to make their way. And now coming around looks like turn 2, and starting to make their way up the hill towards turn 3. And that second battle a little bit further behind, as we have the Porsche of Tony Kernan sitting in 3rd, about a half car length back. Robert Hartley, then Schwenke and Kevin Ford.
Here comes that run. Looks like Mike Dan was able to get himself a decent run. He is right underneath that rear wing and that rear bumper of Elvis Rankin. He's going to have to get on the outside. He's going to have to be side by side all the way through 8, 9, and 10 to have any sort of shot. Let's see if he can make it stick.
All right, he comes down now, driver's right, and he's got the position here as they come into turn number 8. Gets to the inside. Can he get up far enough on the door? Contact between our 2 leaders as they come into turn 10 for the very last time. They are still side by side. And Dam sneaks on through, and he is going to cross the line. Wow. Our winner tonight is Mike Dam. Elvis Rankin drops down to 3rd, and now we've got that battle for 3rd coming on through turns 9 and 10. Sitting in, we've got Tony Kernan in the 84 car. Right behind him is Robert Hartley and the Porsche Cayman of Tony Kernan. He is going to bring home the last step on the podium. Drop Hartley in the 4th. Schwenke will finish 5th. Kevin Ford will finish in 6th.
And over in the TCRs, you got Whitworth leading List, and he somehow missed how List had given up that lead. Whitworth now leading there in TCR here on the final lap.
Yep, and as they make their way through and come down, it is Whitworth with about 4 car lengths on list right now as they come down the Andretti straight for the very last time. Actually, it's probably more than 4 car lengths, about 5 car lengths. Closing up, though, looks like we've got Violet making up a little bit of ground on our second pair, but now our leader, Andrew Whitworth. Or probably Brandon Whitworth. I'm sorry, Brandon Whitworth in the number 42 car. He comes onto the front straight. He is going to take the win in TCR, finishing second, also in a D2D racing machine. Andrew List in the number 61 car. And then we've got the 89 of Violet, who should, in a moment here, finish in third.
Wow, what a tremendous, exciting finish. Those last couple laps there for the final position on the podium, and then the last 2 corners to decide the winner of the overall, Mike Dam. And it took a little bit of contact, but to me it looked like a little bit of rub and racing sort of contact there with Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin. Those guys just fought it out tooth and nail for 75 plus minutes to finally have Mike Dam come out on top and defend Canadian home turf for Mike Dam taking that win in GT4.
All right, maybe we can, hopefully we can go back and get a quick replay of that finish as Mike Dam brought that car up side by side with Elvis Rankin towards the end of the Andretti straight, and then a great battle to bring home the win. All right, so let's run down the race results here in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, brought to you by Performa. Texas Elite Graphics taking the win from Orion Racing. Mike Dam on the very last corner manages to fight his way, and it literally was a fight to get past Elvis Rankin and take the checkered flag. Rankin finishing second. Tony Kernan in the Kernan Motorsports Porsche Cayman will take the last step on the podium. Then Robert Hartley, Travis Schwenke, Kevin Ford, Chris Thorman. Then we had Jordy Fike, Chris Ruddock, and Ray Bader round out the top 10. Myra Asmi, who had an early spin in this race, worked his way all the way back up to 11th. Great run for him. In TCR today, all these drivers running the Audi RS3 LMS cars. Brandon Whitworth from D2D Racing takes the win by almost 3 seconds over Andrew List, his teammate in the number 61 car, Eric Violet, and it's going to be a threefer for D2D Racing. Will take the last step on the podium. Eduardo Cabal will finish in 4th. Jay Shallington 5th. Eduardo Lorente will finish in 6th. Scott Brooks 7th. Austin Knight will finish in 8th. John Allen 9th. Tom Baker 10th.
I don't want to just watch a quick replay of this this finale's last couple of corners here between Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin. As you can see, Mike Dam got a great run off of the hairpin, leading himself down the Andretti straight, and able to just get on the outside as they come up here to turn 8. And you watch him, this time he's able to just stick the car alongside Elvis here through 8 and just hold his line through 9. As he comes through 9, just a little bit of a kiss, a little touch through 9, but neither one of them losing any momentum, going side by side through 10. And now it's just a drag race with Mike Dam having a little bit better momentum and winning by just a car length. What a finish for these two teammates here at Mosport.
And you know, Larry, watching that view, that overhead view from behind, you could see how those drivers were so comparable on the brakes, with one small exception. As the drivers came and took that little switchback, that left-hand turn 9, Mike Dam, I'd say probably about 5 feet later onto the brakes than Elvis Rankin. And that was what brought him up alongside. It's also what brought him into Rankin's door, mind you. But it got him close enough so that he could make the run onto the front straight and take the checkered flag. 5 feet.
Yeah, it did not take much, but man, trying it for the last half of that race, lap after lap after lap, finally to make it stick, it's got to be rewarding. Cannot wait to talk to him.
All right, Larry, let's start off, and I'm going to pass the interviews off to you. We've got our winners in TCR lined up. Let's talk to Andrew List first, finished second in TCR in the number 61 car. All
right. Joining us is going to be Andrew List. Andrew, who led the early part of this race and then found himself with a bit of an off. Andrew, talk me through a little bit of what happened there in the middle of the race there, going into the Moss hairpin. Suddenly you find yourself down a couple of seconds.
Yeah, you know, it was basically just me messing around with my brake bias, and with Eric and Brandon, you need to get every 10th with this car, and we're constantly switching up brake valves and brake bias during the race to try to get these things to turn a little bit better, get the rear end to step out a little bit more in the braking zone. So that was me just going a little bit too far over. I knew when I did it, I just locked up the rears and I felt it going. And I was like, you know what? I better just take this straight instead of just trying to turn with it. And so yeah, I just kind of made a game decision right there, and I went down a second and a half, and I knew I wasn't going to catch Brandon on the track, so I tried to undercut him with the pit strategy, and it seemed to work for a little bit. But yeah, he just got me in the end there.
Yeah, it seemed like you were able to catch back up to him. You had a great pit stop. Then coming to the end of the race there, walk me through the last closing stages.
Yeah, well, it seemed like I had a fairly good pit strategy coming out of the second half of the race, and I was out there on warm tires when Brandon was just getting out of the pits on the cold tires, so I closed up on him pretty fast, and then made the pass pretty easy, and got a little bit of a gap, but I was just pushing just a little bit too hard, just kind of working the fronts just a little bit too much, getting on the gas a little bit too hard out of the corners, and I think it just heated up those fronts too much for me to make a lasting long stint out of the entire thing. And yeah, Brandon just showed his true colors right at the end. Made a move and stuck with it, and then just pulled away at the end.
Yeah, it's tough. You guys teammates and all, but you guys certainly fight. Door to door and lap for lap, all the way right up to the end. And it's great to watch. And once again, a D2D team sweep at the podium for sure.
Yeah, I got to give it up to our team. All the guys work really hard, and we're trying to grow the TCR class, which we did this week. So we're really happy about that. And all those guys out there are really good racers, and it just gave us a little bit more extra motivation to put in that extra work this weekend to make the cars perfect. And yeah, I think we showed it this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. You guys are the class of the field. Is a lot of fun to watch, and I love seeing the class grow, and definitely looking forward to seeing the next round with you guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Congratulations on the second place finish, and I think we're going to bring in Brandon Whitworth, the winner tonight in TCR. Be up next. Let's talk a little bit with Brandon. All right, Brandon Whitworth, we've got our winner here tonight in the TCR field. Brandon, it was a bit of an ups and downs and all over the place kind of a race. Early on, find yourself chasing Andrew there for a while, and then find yourself in the lead and had to kind of claw back in there. Walk me through a little bit of that race for you.
Yeah, well, once we kind of got settled in the first half, there wasn't much point in pushing too hard because it's a long race, and so I just kind of rode around. Which I don't know if it looked like that or not, but I kind of felt that way, which is good. And after the pit stop, I came out a little bit ahead. I got in front of Andrew when he made that little mistake there in Moss Corner, which will get you every time. And I came out of the pits, and both of us had taken tires, so my tires were cold, so I had to let them back by. And then once we got warmed up toward the end, I started pushing him a little bit to see if he had any more speed, and I decided that he wasn't going fast enough, so I went around him.
Yeah, that's what he was just saying too, that he realized right at the end of the race he didn't quite have the pace to keep up with you, and a well-fought win for you right up there at the end of the race. And these races, this long 75-minute races, definitely are a true test, aren't they, in these cars?
Yeah, it's quite a bit of time to have to maintain your focus because you can't make any mistakes here. Like one little mistake, and if you touch that grass, you're in the wall and your race is done. So it's takes quite a bit of concentration.
Yeah, well, you definitely were able to concentrate for the full 75 minutes and come away with a victory here tonight. So congratulations, Brandon. Anybody you want to thank tonight?
I think Proforma Ricmotech, Proforma Elite Text Graphics Ricmotech putting on the league, and of course Proforma is our sponsor for our team, which is nice. All the teammates, we're always
family letting you have your fun. So congratulations tonight, Brandon. Congratulations on the win.
All right, Larry, let's jump over to our top 2 finishers in GT4. We'll start off with Elvis Rankin, who finished on the second step of the podium.
All right. Elvis Rankin joining us. Elvis, is kind of the tale of 2 races here. The first half of the race, you were sort of the chaser, and finally you find yourself in the lead. Walk me through the strategy to finally make that pass early in that race.
Yeah, I was just applying the pressure and just trying to, I was sitting around just seeing, how his pace was doing and kind of, in study mode and just see where is he making mistakes, where is he doing better than me. And I kind of found he was better down the hill and through Moss, and everywhere else I was actually felt like a little quicker than him. Like through that final S section, I felt like I was much better than him through. I think it showed a little bit, and then yeah, it's just knew it had to be around the outside. I knew he was going to defend the move, and I gave it everything I had, made it stick somehow.
Yeah. So then, you take that lead. You guys take your pit stops. You actually came out quite a bit ahead of him from the pit stops. He's able to catch back up to you, but it's still, as we expected, it still came down to the last turns 8, 9, and 10 on the last lap. Give me your side of that story in those last couple of corners.
I'm actually going to back up a little bit. This is just for me. I don't know why. I kind of said, to Mike earlier, I said, I'm throwing up a prayer here because I know this is his track, his turf. He has spectated many races here. He's done plenty of things here. And I was just throwing up a prayer trying to answer. And yeah, I don't know why I had like a throttle stick for a lap early in the race. I had my headset almost die. And then right at the pit stop, he takes the left side tires, which at Mosport, really nice. And then in my whole fluster in the first half of the race with all my kind of technical problems, I guess you could say, I checked right side tires. So I was, at that point, making it even more a prayer. And, I mean, the car was not good at all. I mean, he was saying that it was really bad after the first stint. After the second stint, it was just awful. I was like, he flames me, catches me in 3 laps. I'm like, okay, he's going to take like 3, 4 laps, set me up, and go. And he's just like I'm standing still. I don't know how I held him off for like 17 laps. That's like a miracle in itself. So
it's a tough place to pass, though, isn't it?
It's so tough. I was trying to just back up my inches on Moss and really try and ace the exit. I knew how much I needed, and I think he kind of hit me in Moss a little bit, which kind of shot me forward, kind of missed the apex a little bit, it looked like. And then I knew it was going to come down to a side-by-side, and I just threw that. I think that last section, I think it was just, tough racing. It was so much fun throughout the whole race. I can't say.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch from our side. I'm glad to hear it was a lot of fun from your side. I'm sure you probably need a few hours to calm down. That just looked like a very intense battle for 75 minutes for sure.
Yeah. Looks like almost get clear of him. And he just gets that back from the outside from those tires, it felt like. And had a little contact, and my last corner, I was just throwing a prayer, and I took too much curbing. I think if I might have not taken too much curbing, I might have made it a drag race. I still think he would have got me, but I would have made it a little closer. But no, it was clean racing. We were doing 0X's pretty much the whole race when he was in front, when I was in front, Yeah. We were just giving each other a little bit of love and, trading some paint. But it was so much fun.
Yeah, it looked like it, and you guys put on a great show. Congratulations on the second place finish tonight, and I'm sure you'll be bringing it right back to him next week when you guys are back at it again.
I'm trying to make it as hard as on the Canadian.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Elvis, and we'll talk to you next week. Let's bring in our winner tonight, Mike Dam.
Thanks to Orion Race Team, by the way.
Of course. Mike Dam, our winner tonight. Mike, who puts the car as the local Canadian here at Mosport, puts the car on pole, and the local Canadian defending home turf. Mike, congratulations on the win. How do you feel about that?
I felt like I kind of squeaked that one out. I kind of said sorry to Elvis for stealing that one, but I felt like he kind of stole it from me first, so I had to get some payback. But that was incredibly close. It was just, man, there was nothing between us. Just really tight. It's hard to pass on this track, which makes it even that closer of a battle. So,
absolutely. And from our vantage point, it looked like it was just 75 minutes of intense attempts to try and make a pass. As it comes down to the last lap, what's going through your mind in terms of, you're running out of chances? What are you thinking there? Are you thinking turn 2? Are you thinking you have to do it coming out of Moss hairpin into 8? What's your thoughts?
Honestly, it's just kind of, it's hard to do it anywhere early in the lap because that turn 2, you kind of splits you up a little bit. I found in this car it was really hard to get a run out to turn 3, so it was kind of really tough to do anything until really by the time you got to Moss, and then you're kind of stacked up at Moss again, so it was almost like you had to get the run out of Moss. And then so I was left with, I tried left and right going into turn 8, and it's hard either way, man. So maybe it was just the gaining more confidence and more info on kind of what I needed to do to make that outside pass on turn 8. So that kind of finally worked. But it definitely was a long time coming.
Yeah, and we were watching exactly what you're saying, trying inside, trying outside, we kept calling it the old kitchen sink, throwing everything at the young Elvis Rankin to make something work. But finally, as it came down to that last lap, you were able to make turn 8 stick, and then as you come in through 9, a little bit of contact. Do you back off? Do you make sure he's okay? What's your thought when you felt the car kind of bump a little bit through 9?
Yeah, absolutely not. I'm not going to back off. Yeah, in that second half of the race, we had, I think, 6 car contacts, so I wasn't going to be worried about that. So, but yeah, obviously I wasn't going to do anything that would put his race in jeopardy, and I think he feels the same way. So it's just amazing that we were able to just battle that close and be there right at the end is an awesome race by him.
Oh yeah, this is absolutely just so much fun to watch, and I could watch another 75 minutes of that. You guys put on such a display, and not only watch you guys side by side, but do you guys have any idea how much you were pulling away from the pack, even though you guys were battling? It just shows the skill and the pace that you guys have. It's just unbelievable and great fun to watch week after week, whether it's in this car or the other cars in the Ricmotech series. You guys put on quite a show. So congratulations on the win, and I'm sure you got some folks you'd like to thank for this.
Yeah, just to my teammates, Elvis, for putting on that great race. It was amazing. I'd like to thank Frank at Ricmotech for sponsoring this series, selling some great sim racing equipment. Kevin and Jeff, the admins, for putting this on, and you guys for broadcasting. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and congratulations again, and definitely looking forward to seeing you next week.
Awesome. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, that is great, Larry. And I'll tell you, listening to Elvis talk about all the troubles and travails that he went through in this race, I was expecting him to say, maybe that he had a little bit too much poutine before the race or something along those lines. But between headset problems, between putting the tires on the wrong side of the car, everything, it sounded like, given all the issues that he had, to be able to run neck and neck with somebody at his local track, really, it was an amazing race to watch Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin fight their way over 75 minutes. So with tonight's race wrapping up, let's take a look at some of the upcoming races that we have in the 3 different Ricmotech series. Next up is going to be next Monday night, March 1st. The World Challenge is going to have round 3. They are going to be at Watkins Glen, so you'll be able to see the LMP2 cars, the GTE and GT3 cars. They're going to be racing for 75 minutes of action up in upstate New York.
One of my favorite
definitely
tracks.
One of my favorite tracks, except when I hit the Blue Armco. But definitely tune in. In 2 weeks, that is March 8th, round number 4 of the Classic Sprint Car Series. That is our MX-5 cars. They are going to the West Coast. They are going to Wine Country and Sonoma Raceway. They will be racing for 60 minutes. Definitely make sure to check that out. And then in 3 weeks,
Coming to my hometown.
Yeah, coming to Larry's neck of the woods, the sports car series. So you just watched tonight. They're going to be heading to Detroit's Belle Isle, home of the Detroit Grand Prix, for a 60-minute race. You definitely want to check that out. So, Larry, great evening tonight. Great racing on both from both our GT4 and TCR cars, and definitely look forward to meeting up with you again in a week for the World Challenge.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. So for Larry McLeod, for Dennis Branch, for Alex Simpson, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next week for the Ricmotech World Challenge. You've been watching the Ricmotech Sports Car Series presented by Performa Elite Graphics, and we'll see you next week.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.